Imagine this for a moment. While Christmas lights sparkle across celebrity mansions and social media feeds overflow with luxury gifts, one quiet confession suddenly steals the spotlight. Travis Kelce has finally spoken about the best Christmas gift he ever gave Taylor Swift. But this isn't a headline built on diamonds or private jets. According to Kelce himself, this gift was more than just romantic. Before you scroll away, stay with the story, react, and share your thoughts. Because what's revealed here is reshaping how fans see one of the most talked about relationships in the world, an entertainment landscape driven by spectacle. Travis Kelce's words landed like a slow-burning shockwave. During what seemed like a casual moment, the NFL superstar dropped a statement that instantly ignited search engines and social timelines. The phrase was short, the delivery calm, but the implication was massive. It was more than just romantic. No explanation, no details, and suddenly, the mystery became the story. Within hours, searches for Travis Kelce Taylor Swift Christmas gift, Taylor Swift holiday surprise, and Travis Kelce interview Christmas surged. Fans and commentators raced to fill in the blanks. Was it an extravagant piece of jewelry? A rare, one-of-a-kind keepsake? Or something so personal it could never be replicated? The absence of specifics only tightened the tension, pulling the public deeper into speculation. Sources close to the situation suggest the gift had little to do with money and everything to do with intention. Travis Kelce, known for his intensity on the field, reportedly wanted to give Taylor Swift something that reflected emotional presence rather than material excess. In a relationship constantly tested by distance, schedules, and global attention, the gesture was designed to speak quietly, but powerfully. At this point, the narrative shifts. The pace slows, the focus sharpens. This is no longer a flashy celebrity headline. It becomes a story about meaning, about choosing depth in a culture obsessed with display. Visuals change. The imaginary camera zooms in, cutting away from stadiums and concert crowds to something far more intimate. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's relationship has been dissected in real time since the beginning. Every appearance sparks headlines. Every interaction fuels debate. Yet this Christmas moment stood apart. There was no viral photo, no staged reveal, just a carefully chosen gift meant for one person, not the internet. Midway through the story, a detail emerged that stopped fans in their tracks. According to insiders, the heart of the gift was time. Not a symbol of time, not a luxury item representing it, but actual uninterrupted time, deliberately carved out of an NFL season and a global music empire. For two people whose lives are scheduled down to the minute, this wasn't a small thing. It was rare, and it was intentional. The reaction was immediate. Some fans called it the most meaningful celebrity gift they'd ever heard of. Others questioned whether it signaled something bigger. Was Travis Kelce making a statement about commitment? Was this his way of saying that Taylor Swift wasn't just part of the moment, but part of the future? The speculation intensified, keeping audiences locked in, waiting for clarity. Then came the payoff. When Travis finally added one more line about the gift, everything clicked. He hinted that what mattered wasn't the gesture itself, but the decision behind it, the choice to show up fully without performance, without pressure. It wasn't about headlines or expectations. It was about growth, about meeting someone at the same emotional level and choosing to move forward together. In that moment, the noise faded, the rumors softened, and the story revealed why this relationship continues to captivate millions. Because beneath the fame, the cameras, and the constant commentary, there was something undeniably human happening. Now it's your turn. Do you believe a gift like this carries more weight than any luxury item? Or do you think the symbolism is being read too deeply? Share your perspective, join the conversation, and stay connected. Because if a single Christmas gift can spark this much discussion, what comes next may be even bigger. The story didn't end there. In fact, that quiet revelation only opened a much larger conversation. One that stretched far beyond Christmas morning and into the deeper dynamics of their relationship. Media analysts began revisiting past moments, replaying interviews, sideline reactions, and subtle lyrical parallels, searching for clues that this mindset had been building long before the holidays arrived. Observers noted how Travis Kelce's public demeanor had shifted over recent months. Once known primarily for his confidence and humor, he appeared more measured, more intentional. Friends reportedly described him as grounded in a way they hadn't seen before. And while Taylor Swift has long mastered the art of storytelling through music, those close to her hinted that this chapter of her life felt different. Less performative, more live-as Christmas passed. The aftermath of the gift continued to ripple outward. Sports commentators brought it up during broadcasts. Entertainment journalists framed it as a cultural moment, evidence that modern celebrity romance might be evolving. Headlines emphasized phrases like emotional intelligence, intentional partnership, and presence over possessions, all tied back to Travis Kelce's now famous description. What made the story resonate wasn't exclusivity, it was relatability. In a world where celebrity gifts often feel unattainable, this one felt surprisingly human. Time, tension, choice, these were currencies everyone understood. And suddenly, Travis Kelce wasn't just an NFL icon dating a global pop star. He became a symbol of a quieter, more grounded form of commitment. Industry insiders also pointed out the timing. Taylor Swift was coming off one of the most demanding periods of her career, while Kelce was navigating the physical and mental toll of an NFL season. For both, rest was scarce, privacy even scarcer. To deliberately prioritize space for one another during that window sent a message louder than any press release ever could. Fans began sharing their own interpretations online, transforming the story into a broader discussion about relationships under pressure. Some called it the anti-Hollywood gift. Others described it as soft power romance. The idea that real impact doesn't need spectacle. Engagement skyrocketed, not because of scandal, but because of sincerity. As days turned into weeks, one question lingered. Was this a turning point? While neither Travis Kelce nor Taylor Swift made grand declarations, their actions spoke subtly. Public appearances remained understated. Interviews stayed respectful and guarded. There was no rush to capitalize on attention, an absence that, paradoxically, kept interest even higher. Cultural commentators suggested that this moment may ultimately define how their relationship is remembered, not by viral clips or red carpet moments, but by a single decision made quietly during the holidays. A decision to slow down, to choose meaning, to give something that couldn't be bought, branded, or posted. And perhaps that's why the story continues to hold attention. Because beneath the fame, it reflects a universal truth. The most powerful gestures are often the least visible. In an age of constant noise, Travis Kelce's Christmas gift to Taylor Swift stood out precisely because it didn't demand to be seen. As conversations continue and curiosity remains high, one thing is clear. This wasn't just a holiday headline. It was a narrative shift. And whether this moment marks the beginning of something even deeper or simply a meaningful chapter in their journey, it has already left a lasting impression. So as the spotlight moves on and new headlines emerge, this story lingers, quietly reminding audiences that sometimes the most unforgettable gifts aren't wrapped, photographed, or announced. They're chosen, and once given, they change everything. Yet even after the headlines cooled, the implications of that Christmas gift continued to unfold in unexpected ways. Entertainment editors began reframing the narrative, not as a fleeting holiday anecdote, but as a defining moment in the public evolution of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's relationship. What initially felt like a soft confession slowly revealed itself as a deliberate statement, one that contrasted sharply with the hypervisible nature of celebrity culture. Behind the scenes, sources described a shift in priorities. Travis Kelce, a figure long associated with high-energy locker rooms and championship pressure, was said to be increasingly selective about how and where he spent his off-field time. Taylor Swift, whose career has been marked by relentless momentum, was reportedly embracing moments of stillness when they appeared. These weren't dramatic changes, but subtle recalibrations that suggested alignment rather than coincidence. AS analysts revisited Kelce's words. The phrase, "more than just romantic," took on layered meaning. Romance implies emotion, but this gesture pointed toward responsibility, toward awareness, toward an understanding of what it means to show up for someone whose life operates on a global scale. In that sense, the gift became symbolic, not of love alone, but of readiness. Public reaction continued to evolve. Early fascination turned into deeper reflection. Fans began comparing this story to past celebrity relationships that burned brightly but briefly, often fueled by spectacle rather than substance. In contrast, this narrative felt restrained, almost resistant to overexposure. That resistance, ironically, amplified its impact. Cultural critics highlighted how the story intersected with broader conversations about modern relationships. In an era defined by speed, availability, and constant visibility, the idea of intentionally slowing down felt radical. The notion that time, protected, intentional, undistracted, could be the ultimate gift resonated far beyond fandom. It became a talking point in lifestyle columns, relationship podcasts, and opinion pieces. What stood out most was the absence of contradiction. Neither Travis Kelce nor Taylor Swift rushed to reframe the story or dilute its meaning. There were no follow-up clarifications, no attempts to sensationalize the moment. The silence itself became part of the narrative, reinforcing the authenticity that first captured attention. As awards season approached and playoff discussions intensified, their individual careers continued to dominate headlines. Yet this quieter storyline persisted in the background, resurfacing whenever conversations turned toward longevity, balance, or emotional maturity. It was no longer just about a Christmas gift, it was about a philosophy. Insiders suggested that this moment marked a new boundary between public and private life for both figures. Not a withdrawal from visibility, but a recalibration of what they chose to share. The message seemed clear. Some things were meant to be experienced, not consumed. By the time spring conversations began hinting at future plans, many fans had already drawn their own conclusions. Whether or not the relationship would endure was almost secondary to what it represented. A reminder that even under the brightest spotlight, intentional choices still matter. Looking back, the power of the story lies in its restraint. There was no dramatic reveal, no exclusive footage, no orchestrated campaign. Just a single sentence carefully chosen and allowed to stand on its own. In a media environment built on excess, that simplicity felt disruptive. And perhaps that's why this narrative continues to linger. Because it challenges expectations. Because it suggests that depth can exist without display. Because it reframes what significance looks like when fame is no longer the focal point. As news stories rise and fall, this one remains quietly intact. Less a headline, more a reference point. A moment that redefined how people interpreted a high-profile relationship, not through spectacle, but through intention. In the end, the true impact of Travis Kelce's Christmas gift to Taylor Swift may not be measured in searches, clicks, or trending metrics. It may be measured in how it changed the conversation, shifting attention away from what was given and toward why it was given at all. And that is what made it unforgettable. As the months rolled on, that single Christmas moment quietly became a reference point, something commentators returned to whenever discussions of authenticity in celebrity relationships surfaced. It was no longer framed as gossip, but as context. A subtle anchor explaining why this particular pairing continued to feel different, even as the spotlight never dimmed. Industry observers began to notice how carefully both sides managed visibility afterward. Travis Kelce remained focused on football, keeping interviews centered on performance and teamwork, yet his language subtly evolved. He spoke more often about balance, about support systems, about the mental side of pressure. Meanwhile, Taylor Swift continued her creative dominance, but those closest to her described a renewed sense of calm behind the scenes, an emotional steadiness that contrasted with the intensity of her public schedule. What made the Christmas gift narrative endure was its refusal to escalate. There was no attempt to turn it into branding, no holiday special, no glossy photo spread. The story existed almost in opposition to the machinery that usually amplifies celebrity moments. And that resistance made it credible. Media theorists noted how audiences responded differently to this story compared to typical celebrity gift revelations. Instead of envy, the dominant emotion was reflection. Instead of fixation on cost, there was curiosity about values. That shift mattered. It suggested that public appetite was changing, that meaning, not excess, was becoming the currency of engagement. The phrase "more than just romantic" continued to echo, not because it promised drama, but because it hinted at depth. Romance is often fleeting, fueled by novelty and passion. What Kelce described sounded steadier, intentional, almost architectural, as if he were talking about building something rather than displaying it. This interpretation gained traction when relationship experts weighed in, pointing out that time, when consciously protected, is one of the strongest indicators of long-term commitment. For two people whose lives are governed by external demands, choosing presence over productivity was not accidental. It was a decision. Fans, too, began reframing their expectations. Instead of waiting for grand gestures or viral moments, they watched for consistency, small patterns, quiet alignment, and while speculation never fully disappeared, its tone softened. The conversation matured. By mid-year, the Christmas gift story had evolved into something almost symbolic, a shorthand for emotional maturity in the public eye. Commentators referenced it when contrasting sustainable partnerships with those built on spectacle. It became an example, not an exception. What's striking is how little new information was ever added, and yet how much meaning audiences derived from it. That restraint allowed imagination to work without manipulation. The story breathed. It aged naturally. In retrospect, the power of the moment lay not in revelation, but in implication. It suggested a private understanding between two public figures, an agreement about what mattered and what didn't. In a culture that rewards overexposure, that agreement felt quietly radical. As the year progressed, newer headlines inevitably took center stage. Records were broken, games were won and lost, tours expanded, but the Christmas story never truly disappeared. It resurfaced in reflective pieces, anniversary discussions, and long-form profiles examining how public figures navigate intimacy under scrutiny. And perhaps that's the ultimate reason it endures. Not because it promised answers, but because it modeled a possibility that even in the most visible lives, some choices can remain grounded, deliberate, and deeply human. In the end, Travis Kelce's Christmas gift to Taylor Swift was never about surprise. It was about intention. And long after the season passed, that intention continued to speak, quietly, steadily, and far louder than any spectacle ever could. What followed in the public conversation was something rarely seen in celebrity news cycles: longevity without escalation. Weeks passed, then months, and still that Christmas gift remained a touchstone. Not because new details emerged, but because none were needed. The lack of amplification became its own form of confirmation. Nothing contradicted it. Nothing diluted it. The story simply held. Editors began using the moment as context rather than content. When Travis Kelce spoke about leadership, the gift was mentioned as evidence of emotional awareness. When Taylor Swift was praised for navigating fame with control and intention, the story quietly reappeared as part of the framework. It evolved from headline to footnote and from footnote to subtext. Behind the scenes, people close to both camps described a mutual understanding about boundaries. Not secrecy, but selectivity. They didn't retreat from the public eye, they refined how they occupied it. Appearances were intentional. Silence was intentional too. And in an industry where constant visibility is often mistaken for relevance, that restraint carried weight. The Christmas gift narrative also began to influence how fans interpreted Taylor Swift's creative direction. While no explicit references were made, listeners noted a tonal shift. Less urgency, more reflection. Analysts were careful not to overreach, but the timing invited discussion. The idea that emotional stability could coexist with artistic intensity felt validating to many who followed her work closely. For Travis Kelce, the impact was just as noticeable. Coverage of him subtly expanded beyond athletic performance. He was discussed not just as a tight end or a champion, but as a figure navigating adulthood under scrutiny. The gift became shorthand for growth, a moment that symbolized transition from spontaneity to intention. What's remarkable is how little resistance the story faced. There was no backlash, no exposed contradiction, no counter-narrative. In the volatile ecosystem of celebrity news, that kind of consistency is rare. It suggested alignment between words and actions, something audiences are quick to test and even quicker to challenge. As cultural conversations shifted toward burnout, balance, and emotional sustainability, the story gained new relevance. It was cited in broader discussions about redefining success, not as accumulation but as alignment, not as visibility but as meaning. In that sense, the gift transcended its origin entirely. By the time the next holiday season approached, retrospectives began to appear. Articles revisiting the year often referenced that Christmas moment as a quiet beginning, not of a relationship, but of a narrative recalibration. It marked the point where spectacle stopped being the primary lens. Importantly, neither Travis Kelce nor Taylor Swift ever positioned the moment as exemplary. There was no moral framing, no attempt to universalize it. That absence of self-consciousness allowed others to do the interpreting. The story belonged to the audience as much as it did to its subjects and long-form profiles. Journalists described it as a negative space moment, defined more by what wasn't shown than by what was. No photographs, no timestamps, no performative proof, just a statement that trusted listeners to understand its weight without evidence. And they did. As years pass and narratives inevitably shift, this story will likely remain intact. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was coherent. It aligned with everything that followed. And in hindsight, that coherence may be its greatest strength. Because in the end, the Christmas gift Travis Kelce gave Taylor Swift didn't change the news cycle overnight. It changed the tone. It slowed the rhythm. It introduced the idea that even at the highest levels of fame, meaning doesn't need amplification to be real. And that's why it continues to resonate, not as a moment frozen in time, but as a signal. A signal that sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that never try to prove themselves at all.